This is TABcast, brought to you by the Alternative Board,
helping business leaders improve their business for a better life. Hello all, and welcome to episode 9 of TABcast. Thank you to all of you that have spoken to us over the past few months around how much you've enjoyed the previous episodes. For those of you that are tuning in for the first time, please have a look on Spotify, search us on TABcast. These are only as good as the people who join us on the sofa. So hopefully you're getting some value from these particular recordings. If you look back over at our archive, we've done subjects such as sales, starting out in business, family businesses. But I'm going to say that today's subject is, I think, probably one of the most important that we've covered. And we have 3 wonderful business leaders who are going to remain professional, positive, and share their years of experience with us. Let's start with some quick introductions. As I say, I will start professionally. So, Ryan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Ryan from Just Personnel. We're a multi-sector recruitment agency. We've been going 23 years. And I'm also a facilitator at Andy's Man Club, which obviously ties in with what we're doing today.
And we'd love to find out a little bit more about your work at Andy Man's Club.
Yeah.
Alistair.
Liam, thanks for this opportunity. It's great. I run Wingmen, which is a men's mental health listening line. We offer an hour to any person, any man who wants to ring up for whatever reason to get things off the chest and just know that they're going to be listened to. And then at the end of that hour, if we can signpost them in the right direction, then we'll do so.
Great stuff. We'd love to get into a little bit more detail about that. And tell me a little bit about the stress specialist.
So yes, that's me. I'm Nikki from the Stress Specialist. So I run an organisation that basically goes into businesses and helps individuals learn and master everything stress related, wellbeing related.
Great stuff. Today, what are we hoping to cover off? Well, hopefully, for the listening and viewing audience, we'd like to get some insight into a little bit about what mental well-being is, hopefully some hints and tips about how you can maintain a healthy mindset. But of course, this is an opportunity, because we really do want to help and support that if people are struggling in any way, please do take the opportunity to reach out to anyone who's on the TABcast today, but indeed anyone you feel comfortable. Because talking is, I guess, a great solution to us all feeling a little bit better. Can we start by understanding in your own words, if you don't mind, around what does mental well-being mean for you?
For me, it's the foundation that underpins every part of life. We have to, without well-being, we can't function in any way, shape or form. So we need to prioritise it, look after it. Well-being is mental and physical. They're interchange, they're interlinked. You can't have one without the other. You can't fix one and the other not be affected. Equally, you can't not pay attention to one and the other one not be affected. I think well-being is something that we all need to know a bit more about. I think we kind of just coast our way through. We need to be a bit more consciously aware of it.
Yeah.
Because it affects everything: relationships, work, home life, how you feel, your ability to enjoy life. It's part of the human condition, and we should really learn to manage it better.
Thanks for sharing that, Nikki. Ali, what does well-being mean for you?
Well-being for me, pretty much everything that Nikki just said, I would say. But my take on that is that we're not on this world for a particularly long time. We've got that opportunity, after having spent the first 20 or so years learning, to fulfill our potential and be the best we can possibly be, and to optimize ourselves, whatever that means. And if you're not in a good well-being state, if your mental health isn't right, then you're never going to be able to do that.
Great stuff. Right.
Kind of echo what the guys have just said. I think it's about having a good head and heart and being able to function well on a daily basis, and echo what you've just said basically about coasting through life, that if we're just coasting, then we don't think about other things that could affect us, and we don't have that moment. And I always think about my granddad, going back to my granddad years ago, and we're making cups of tea and things like that, and going to his, now we've always got his phones and things out, haven't we? And for him, making like a drink and just relaxing and taking in the day or the stresses of his day, being at work or family life, anything, that were his time to think about. But I think the current world that we live in at the moment, we're just constantly always on the go, And obviously, I'll touch on that later about my story around his man club. So yeah.
How do you go about prioritizing your well-being? Who'd like to pick up on that? What do you do? We've talked about optimization. We've talked about prioritizing yourself a little
Yeah.
bit. Give us some hints and tips about what you do in order
But
to
for
just
me,
do that reset.
For me personally, when obviously I'm going through a tough time, I journaled,
Okay.
and I still do now, but not as often as I should. And for me, that was looking at the wins in the day and not thinking actually. 'Cause we do as human beings, we always think about the negative. One negative can be happening that day.
Yeah.
We focus on that negative, and you could have had 10 wins in that day. So I'll look back on my journal in the day or on an evening and think, actually, I've had 10 wins, 10 positive things today. Maybe one thing that I'm focusing on so much that's affecting my mood is, not really. I've got 10 wins here, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing for me. That's how I look at it. And then a good couple of days, you might have a bad day, but then you might have had 5 good days, 1 bad day. And I think we catastrophize over the things that are maybe not as relevant to,
And that's how the brain works, isn't
Yeah,
it? Because
absolutely.
it's trying to keep us away from threat. It's
Yeah.
trying to keep us away
Yeah.
from the bad stuff. So it's like, I need to know what it is. And so it comes back to awareness for me. You have to have that conscious awareness of what
Yeah.
of what is going on,
Yeah.
and what are you focusing on?
Yeah.
And so you need to do that bit of reflection, and,
Yeah, absolutely.
and whether it's journaling or whether it's just sitting down and having a conversation with someone at the end of the day, or even just sitting and kind of doing a bit of a self audit. What is going on? How do I feel? What am I focusing on today? What language am I using?
Yeah.
All those things, and then you can then take some action. Whatever the action is, everyone needs to have their own individual toolkit. So.
Yeah, I mean, just putting a business take on that, one of the things we're absolutely focused on in TAB or indeed coaching in general is what's gone well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's start with what's gone well, what's
Yeah.
not gone so well, and what help and support do we need from others. Al, thoughts on how you go about prioritizing or optimizing your well-being?
It all starts with identifying whether there's a problem or not, in my experience, and in my experience of talking to other people as well. There's something about the human condition that makes us think that it's normal not to be having a good time,
Yeah.
or to be sad, or not to be sleeping, or not to have a appetite, or whatever that is, whatever those signals are. We kind of fool ourselves into thinking, "Oh, this is just the way it should be," rather than taking a step back and thinking, "Oh, hang on a minute, this isn't right. Maybe there's something wrong."
Yeah.
The other thing that we do is we just don't listen to that inner voice as well. It just we kind of self-sabotage a lot, don't we?
Yeah.
So it all starts with identifying there's a problem. If you never think there's a problem, you're never going to be able to do anything about it.
I might challenge that a little bit. I don't think we should start if we think there's a problem. I think we should just do things automatically. I think, like, we brush our teeth every day. We don't wait until someone backs away because you've got bad breath or your teeth are falling out. We brush our teeth every day, and I'm sure you do that anyway. But I think it's a case of actually let's just do things every day for our well-being,
Yeah.
for our positive well-being.
A lot of people say that about like having your hair done, don't they? It's okay, you do that, but then you don't take that time.
And it's foundational stuff. It's are we drinking enough water? Are we eating?
Absolutely,
Are we sleeping enough? Are we having fun? Are we getting fresh air, daylight? All those things. That's where it's got to start, and then you look at, okay, well, what else is going on?
So already we've picked up a few tips, and I have around journaling, about self-optimization, about getting your hair cut.
I think you need to do that a bit more.
Which I need to do that
Yeah.
a little bit more. But let's focus on you three as individuals and your business and your involvement in this world of human well-being. Tell us a little bit about what stress is, and particularly around how you go about helping supporting people.
So stress is a normal response in the body. It's there. It's intended for good. I quite often refer to it as your internal superhero. but only if it's used correctly. It came about in caveman days, obviously to help the human race survive, to help protect against predators. It's a reaction in our body when we perceive a threat. It kicks in, and it's like, right, I'm going to help you overcome this threat. And it does all kinds of things in your body, whether it's, increasing your heart rate for more oxygen, whether it's getting your muscles warm so you don't hurt yourself, senses on high alert, all those kind of things to help. And that's great. And when, and it releases hormones that facilitate that. And when we overcome the threat, they disappear, all is good. The problem with today's society is we never stop pressing that response. It was only meant for emergencies and like very rarely used. And nowadays we're just constantly, unfortunately, the way that our brains are wired is it's interpreting so many different things as stress.
And what signs are there in individuals that the stress is no longer becoming a benefit? That
it's not a help.
It's not a help.
Everyone's ever so slightly different, but the common ones might be things like a change in appetite, because part of that stress response is it switches off your digestive system. It might be not sleeping, because obviously that's your most vulnerable state. If you're feeling stressed, then you're not going to go to sleep. It might be mood, irritability. It might be memory challenges. It might be headaches. It might be constantly aching. It might also be catching every cough and cold that's going. But again, because your immune system is temporarily switched off when you're in stress response. So and everyone's ever so slightly different. Most people will have early warning signs, but like you were saying, Ali, like people don't recognize them. We don't listen to our bodies anymore, and so our body will whisper to us and tell us that something's going on. But if we don't pay attention, it'll just get louder and louder and louder and start screaming. And a lot of the people that then say, oh yeah, I'm stressed, they're quite far down the line, if I'm honest. And they've got some big things going on.
Thank you for that. Ryan, an organisation that I think every man in this country should know a little bit about. Tell us about your involvement in Andy Mann's Club.
Yeah, so I first went to Andy's Man Club in 2017. I'll tell you, sorry, I'm happy to tell it. I was quite an active person, very active, and I got a sports injury, knocked me off my feet, and I honestly didn't know this at the time, but it knocked me off my feet, and I couldn't do anything, and I'd taken some medication that then took the lining off my stomach, and I was in and out of hospital for maybe about 9 weeks or so, and all I kept thinking in my head is, once this stomach issue was gone and my leg's better, I'll be absolutely fine, I'll be fine. And I didn't even realise it. It's only when I got to a point where I felt somebody came out to me, a coach came out to me, and I went through all this, like, these things, what triggers me, all these things. I'm depressed. I was really depressed. And that was because I'm going back to being coasting through life and being so active, and I'd lost my mum a couple of years before, and I'd not grieved properly. Cause literally, that's one of my personalities, just constantly on the go, and coming home and planning. I'm a planner. I'm just planning things all the time, and my partner always arguing with me about it, saying you need to plan everything, but that's just me. So I tried a lot of different things. So I went to Andy's Man Club for the first time, and as anything, it's really daunting walking through there for the first time. Managed to get through the door. And I was just blown away by the other guys that were sharing their story. And you always do think that it's just happening to you when all these stresses are just yours. And actually, everyone's got different stories. And some people's are worse than yours, some people's are the same, or some people's are less. But it doesn't make it any different. No. So I started going on this Man Club. And I saw, week on week, when I was getting stuff off my chest, I could feel like getting better and wanting to share more, and then I got to a point where I come out of that, that dark times, and I wanted to give something back, so I wanted to help. So I became a facilitator, tried to become a facilitator, and it's so rewarding because what we get guys to still come even when they've got out of the dark times, because it's so, you'll get somebody who'll come and they will speak and they will not say much, but then in 6 weeks' time you'll see them, the progress. And we want to show people that it's okay to come and say, I've had a fantastic week this week. I've had an absolutely fantastic week. Because the guy at the side of you might be thinking, well, 2 weeks ago he was down in the dumps, he was so upset. And it's such an amazing place because you've got to be 18 to attend. But like I said earlier when we're talking just off camera, we get people coming from 18-year-old up to 91, 92-year-old who are lonely, who might have lost a partner, or just haven't got any friends anymore. It's just an amazing place. And we have questions, 2 are always the same. Positive from your week, negative from your week, and something to get off your chest. And then the other 2 are a bit more like light-hearted, like what's your favourite song kind of thing. And it's fantastic. You have a little break in the middle and pass the ball around. We started with just 1 club in 2016, so next year will be 10-year anniversary.
Wow.
And there's 270 clubs now.
I'm heading towards 300 and onwards.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, what's interesting just listening to that is a sports injury.
Yeah.
You know, something that can happen at any time. And that led you then into a journey, and you've mentioned that word depression, which is obviously very different from stress.
But they can be linked.
Okay. We'll pick up on that. But I guess my question would be is, what have you learnt about yourself during that last 8 years?
That resilience more, and there's always that light at the end of the tunnel, and it's about talking to people, because I think at the time I was like I said, I'll focus on if I get better, if these issues, I'll be back on my feet, I'll be back to normal. And now going back to it, I think about I know I mentioned my granddad already, but thinking about having that little bit of time each day, because we do it now. How many times do you go to the supermarket? You've got your phone out while you're waiting at checkout.
Yeah.
You go on a walk with a dog, or you go on a walk, you've got your phone out. And I've read so many self-help books, and for me, that I didn't really read before. I did read, but not a lot self-help, and it's about maintaining that. And I think I've got the tools now. If that happened to me again, that'd be in a good place to manage that. Whereas before, because I was just coasting along and just putting everything to the back of my head, with, like I said, my mum passing away, lots of things in life that's gone off. But it's only when I was really down that it all came crashing down on me. So I think I've got the tools now to be able to cope with that kind of situation if it arises again.
Great to hear, and thank you for sharing that. Ali, tell us a little bit about the vision and values of Wingmen.
Well, first of all, just amazing hearing that.
Yeah, thank you.
And incredible. And I love your response about resilience, because that's what I was hearing when you were telling that story there. And then to name that is just amazing. Story of Wingmen. So maybe if I can just answer a question that you asked before, and then we'll come to that, Liam, because what you were sort of asking, I think, was like how things manifest. And for me, and I wonder if people can relate to this. So I used to have a senior position, as you know, with an employer, and I stopped reading my emails. I couldn't go to my inbox and read the email because of anxiety and stress and all those other things, and it just became normal, and it was just like, I'll put it off till tomorrow. And what's happening there is, I think you used the phrase catastrophizing.
Yeah.
And before, the way I look at these things is 3 Ps: personal, perpetual, and proportionate. Personal, it's bad news, and it's because of something I've done wrong. Perpetual, I'm always going to do that thing wrong, and it'll never change. Proportionate, the thing that's wrong is going to be really, really bad. So I'm looking at my emails, unread, and maybe glance at the first, and I'm like, oh no, I'll have done something wrong, it'll be really bad, and it's going to keep on, biting us in the arse. And that just kind of became normal, I didn't know at the time that I was suffering from acute anxiety. I just thought it was kind of, part of having a senior position, being an executive limited company. Of course, it's not. My solution to that, and to come around to your question there, was all about taking that first step and finding someone who was willing to listen objectively and through experience and be able to do something about it. And that's kind of what Wingmen does. Wingmen it's just about listening. Our value proposition is dead simple. You book an hour with one of our volunteers, and they will listen to you for an hour. We're not there to advise. We're not clinicians. We're not there to counsel or anything like that. But we are there to hopefully be the first point of contact. If Andy's Man Club is amazing, right? But if the thought of rocking up somewhere in person is too daunting, and if the thought of being, in a position where you're completely anonymised and just have a chat with someone, guy on the other end of the phone, is a little bit more up your street, then that's what we offer. Now, at the end of that call, what we can do is signpost, depending on what's been talked about, depending on what's potentially been disclosed, signpost that individual to one of the amazing partners, two of whom are around the table today. 3 actually, and his man club. Just haven't had that chat yet. And then say, look, bearing in mind, what you've mentioned there, would it be okay if we put you in touch with person A, B, or C?
Excellent.
And that's it. It's dead simple.
Great stuff. Just for me to say, if you need help already, if you're listening into this, and regardless of where you are in your personal life, in your business, if you genuinely would benefit from speaking to someone, speak to someone. Thankfully, I think, as a middle-aged man now, the stigma of mental health has gone, and thankfully we are picking up the phone, or we're going to great clubs and sharing about how we're feeling. There's a number of definitions out there. We've talked about stress, we've talked about anxiety, we've talked about depression. If you can, give us a quick overview of how those things are different. You talked a little bit about stress can be a good thing.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit around stress, anxiety, depression.
So, obviously, as I say, stress is a reactionary thing. It's usually, we interpret an event, we interpret it as a threat. The stress response is triggered, and we experience that it can be fight or flight and various other bits and pieces. But generally, the difference that I describe, the difference between stress and anxiety, because actually it is the same biochemical hormonal response. The difference is the stress response generally will stop work, will disappear when the threat is gone.
Okay.
Whereas anxiety is, you keep it going in your head. Like, you keep thinking about something, and you might think about something that's happened in the past, or you might think about how it might happen in the future, but it's not about what's necessarily going on right there and then. It's almost like extending the stress, if you like. There are lots of different types of anxiety. Some people are scared, it's like phobias, PTSD, but then you've got things like, people are just anxious about going in public for, they might have different anxiety, social anxiety, or, and then you've got like spin-offs from that, you've got like OCD. So these are coping strategies as a form of anxiety. And there's all kinds of different things. But then if you imagine like an arc, and you've got stress and anxiety, say, at one side, and we do need elements in our life of these hormones, because they help us with all kinds of things. So your optimum would be at the top of this arc. But then at the other side of this arc is where depression sits. So that might be low mood, that might be withdrawn, that might be being, just wanting to hide away and keeping yourself out of things, and probably very negative thinking. Sometimes what will happen, particularly with anxiety, your brain is like, oh my God, I can't cope with this level of stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, etc. I can't cope with it all the time. So let's sweep over to here and go numb. And sometimes that works as a strategy. Like, you'll stay there for a bit. I'm sure there are people listening, watching to this, that have experienced anxiety, and they know they can flip between anxiety and low mood or depression. And that sometimes works as a strategy. It gives you your body a break from the cortisol, and all's good. But obviously sometimes people can stay there. And that's, if you get then into severe depression, that can obviously lead to much deeper things.
There's anxiety, and there's someone very close to me who has in the past suffered from anxiety. And again, there was someone on this sofa that gave me this great analogy. Someone said to me, what do you see when you see a fire engine? And I thought, great uniform, saving people, hero status, coming down the pole at the fire, just wonderful. And when I asked someone who was very close to me what they seen what they thought when they'd seen a fire engine, it was the hair straighteners are being left on, not my hair straighteners, or the iron. The iron has been left on. We do. But that really brought it home to me around the fact that what I see and my reaction to seeing something or hearing something can be completely different to somebody else.
I often use the analogy of a dog. If you bring a dog into a room, you can have one person that literally gets a rush of oxytocin. It's, oh my God, it's a puppy, it's lovely. And then you get another person who, for whatever reason, maybe they were
Sneezing.
Yeah, start sneezing, or maybe they've been bitten, or maybe
Yeah.
they've watched, what's that film with the dog, the rabid dog, or whatever.
Yeah.
And they have a stress response and they go into a panic attack. It's the same situation, but it's how we process it, how we interpret it, how we think about it that causes our emotional state and our well-being, which is why awareness is really key. You need to know, what are you reacting and responding to, and is it, you need to be able to calm yourself down so you can apply logic and think, actually, is that a useful response?
Calm people down then?
I help people figure out how they can calm down. I help people rationalize. Yeah.
How do you do that? So,
We start physically. Always start with the nervous system. So if you look at your nervous system, obviously is your brain and your body together, but the way that it works, we've got neural pathways that go from the body to the brain and from the brain to the body. There is 80% of those go from the body to the brain. So it makes sense when you're in that fight or flight, when you're in that survival mode, you can't engage logic very easily. You can't engage rationale. So what you have to do is you have to get the nervous system calm enough so that it can actually check into that part of the brain. And the way to do that is think breathing exercises, movement, calm the physical first.
Yeah.
And then you might have a shot at then going into the logical. You can't outthink a stress response. You can't think your way out of an anxiety attack. You've got to start physically, and then it's a bit of a reflection thing, and then start, having that conversation. But for me, breathing is the most powerful thing. Learn how to breathe properly. No one knows how to breathe properly.
I mean, if I can just second that, I was so skeptical about. So I've been taught breathing techniques, and they're amazingly powerful. And I went in as such a skeptic. And because it just feels like a cliche. It feels like a really soft tool.
Take a deep breath.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, hang on a minute. I want you to ask us about,
my
relationship with my mum when I was 2. Remind me, I breathe all the time.
Yeah.
So I was such a skeptic, and I really needed to be convinced that breathing could be as powerful as it is. And it's amazing.
What did you gain from that then?
So I still, so whenever I feel, so first of all, it helps you understand and identify there's a problem, and then secondly, and most profoundly, it allows you to do something about it. So I'll do it now without even thinking about it. If something's stressing me out, find myself breathing in, and then, so different techniques are available, but mine was spend longer on your out breath than you have on your breath.
Which is what is the one for calming the nervous system down,
Yeah. And then you can just start to feel your ability to engage with logic instead of emotion.
Where can people find information on breathing techniques and how to deal with anxiety?
I mean, aside from obviously contacting us, because I'm sure we could all help, there's a lot of information online. I mean, one of the best little videos that I've found for when you're in the midst of it is it's Huberman. He talks about the physiological sigh, the double inhale, which is a really powerful breath. But you can look at breathing exercises for calming online. There's like box breathing, 4, 5, 6, nasal breathing.
Spotify and things.
There's loads of them. There's apps. If you can use apps like Calm and Headspace and things like that. They teach you about really breathing in. You can literally just put your hand on your tummy, take a deep breath in. If your stomach pulls in or stays where it is, you're not breathing properly. You've got to practice. You want to breathe in so that you're pushing your stomach out, and then count how long it takes you to breathe in and do a longer breath out.
Wow. Already plenty of hints and tips, whether it be about journal, whether it be about breathing techniques, whether it be about self-optimization. Give us some other hints and tips that you think are great things in order to improve your mental well-being. Mariah, maybe with you talked a little bit about sports injury. How much has exercise played in your
I think it's
journey?
a really big thing about exercising, because as soon as you get up, if you start the day off right, exercising and getting out in this, walk, even if it's just walking the dog, especially when I was going through my tough times, they were the biggest positives for me in the day especially when I was looking through my journal and my coach would come and say, I'd say I've had a really rubbish day today. And I was like looking at all the negatives. And we looked through my journal, there'd be 3 or 4 things, and it was exercise, especially exercise, like just walking the dog on the morning, making sure I'm just even going to the shop, just constantly moving. And I honestly, going back to what you were saying about we overthink the things, and you're skeptical about the breathing. And I think I was like, I'll never get back to going to the gym. I'll never get back to playing football or running all these things. And I could see week on week in progress that you get to a point where you stop thinking about it. You stop thinking about, you're just doing it, and it's such an important tool. I grew up on pie and chips and things like that. That's what my grandparents and my dad and we did, and there was nothing really about nutrition at school and the importance of it and the importance of exercise. It's because I just did it. I just played football. I was very sporty, and it's only when I got that injury I realised the importance of it. That actually you do need these stuff in your life, and you get to a point where if you don't do it, you start thinking about other things. So that's why it's very important for me, and I think for others, just even, like I said, just get out for a walk 20 minutes a day. Yeah. It's so important to be moving and engaging while you're walking as well. So
there's an added benefit of getting out as well, particularly when we've got nice weather, which I know doesn't happen very often in the UK. But we get exposed to daylight, which is really good fresh air, but we get exposed to daylight on our skin, which helps us produce vitamin D, which is a massively essential it's actually a hormone, it's not a vitamin, but it's a hormone that helps us produce serotonin, one of the happy hormones. It helps us with our physiology as well. It helps us absorb calcium. It helps regulate mood. There's so many benefits. And in the UK, the majority of us are actually vitamin D deficient, according to my GP. About 85% apparently of the UK are naturally vitamin D deficient. So, like you say, getting out and getting daylight on our skin, like we cover up as well, but we need it on our skin, and then we can start producing that, which helps us. It's a foundation. Same with water.
Yeah.
You only have to be a tiny percent dehydrated. I'm talking like 1 or 2%, and your stress response gets triggered.
Yeah. I wonder whether you'd share with us any coping mechanisms, and I don't want to lead this conversation, but I'm particularly thinking of something that was on your desk around your values as an individual. How have they helped you kind of, deal with periods of anxiety, etc.? Your own personal values?
Yeah. Okay. So I think what is at the heart of this question is purpose. So I understand kind of physiologically and moving and water and all of these things, they're all fantastic, but everyone's different.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But what I find is really kind of uniting in terms of whether your mental health is in a positive state or not is whether you have that sense of purpose or not. And that could be found anywhere. It could be found in your kids, could be found at work, could be found at exercise. If you haven't got a purpose, and okay, so this is fairly subjective. This is me speaking here. If I lose that sense of purpose, then my then everything just pitches for me, like in terms of self-esteem and everything else. It all comes from that. Why bother getting up in the morning? Why bother having that cup of tea, cup of coffee? It all comes back to needing to do something. So what I did in order to help that out, and it's interesting that you remembered that, was just think long and hard. And I probably spent, so I studied Stoicism, the sort of, the ancient Greek philosophy, and that got me into the mindset where I thought, well, okay, where it ended up with me was, what are my values? What do I stand for?
Yeah.
I thought long and hard about what they could be and drew up, a short list and tweaked them and refined them and all that sort of stuff. Ended up with a set of 4 values that I thought, if I can remember these, I'm terrible at doing it. I'm not going to
put you on the spot now.
I'm not going to beat myself.
As long as you live them.
The idea was kind of live them every day and try to do something which applies to each one of those values every day. And I found that it was actually counterproductive. It was putting the pressure on me.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But just having those things that I come back to really helps me, helps my personal life, helps me in my business life, just kind of helps. But that's just me.
Great stuff. Thank you for sharing that. Look, I want to bring it back into, we're all in the world of support. If there is someone out there listening and they're not quite sure whether they are, under stress and that stress is getting towards dangerous levels, whether they're highly anxious, whether they're in the world of depression, give us each a hint, a tip that someone can take away and do something today in order to improve their well-being. Nikki?
So my number one top tip is usually to identify the things that put a smile on your face and write them down, whatever that might be, whether it's a cup of tea, whether it's listening to your favourite song, whether it's the smell of incense, anything, a hug with your pet or animal or friend or whatever. Just write them all down, create a feel-good list, and then make sure, a bit like you were saying, you do something every day, make sure that you've done some of those things on that list every single day. And have the big things as well. It might be nice, feel good list might be book a holiday or whatever, but have the little things too. So I generally tell people, take a week to do this list or longer. Have it, in your phone or on a notepad near you, and just every time something makes you smile a little bit, write it down, whatever it is. Doesn't matter how silly it is. And then make sure that you're doing lots of that every day.
Running TABcast with three great people.
There you go.
Ali, give us a hint, tip, something that you've benefited from.
Great question. Connect. Humans are hardwired to connect. We're a social species. It's just what we do. It's written through our DNA and in our vagal nerve system. It's all about connection. And I don't want that to sound glib, because there will be some people listening to this, and I know without a doubt who will think that's the last thing I want to do at the minute. Mm-hmm. And it will be, because that's habitual. That's the way that their neuroplastic brain has been working for a long time, and to break that habit and to do something which feels counterintuitive is a really, really hard thing. But connect, that's how we built the Wingmen brand. We don't do anything hugely clever or different or anything like that, but what we do is offer an opportunity to connect for the first time. The first time is always the hardest. And
I guess that point about connection is, we all know this, that there's only positivity that can come out of that connection, and that's got to be far better than not connecting at all. Ryan, a hint, tip, something that people can do?
I've already spoke about it, to be honest, but I think journaling for me, it is a really big thing. And I'll be totally honest, when my coach first said to me, do journaling, I wasn't open to it. And I think try and be open to new ideas and new things. I tried so many different workshops. Some of them weren't for me. Going back to the breathing, I enjoyed that one, but then I did some problem solving ones, and there were different ones that didn't work for me. So like I say, it's all about you as an individual. But for me, absolutely journaling, you can see.
So what do you mean by journaling? Just kind of give us your...
So basically, you just write about your day. It's literally writing about your day. And
so it is free tech.
Yeah, it's just literally...
There's different types of journaling, isn't there? But
So you can do it on your phone if you wanted. But I just think writing it down is important. That was important for me. So
it's reflecting on the day.
Reflecting on the day.
It's making a list of what you felt, what you've observed, what you perceived, how all of those things.
And
cool.
Like I said, I think touched on it earlier, that sometimes we think we've had a bad day, but actually we haven't, and then that could turn into a really good week. Sometimes a bad month, we think, I've had a terrible month. But actually, when you look back and reflect, and I think then it starts to build on that positive mindset. For me, so absolutely, for that worked for me. I don't think it worked for everyone, but it's just about being open to new ideas and things that I never thought would work for me have actually worked for me. It's been fantastic.
There's a lot of power, they say, when they talk about, so there's different kinds of journaling, and if people have not done it before, it can be quite difficult to sit and write. So I'll often say to people, just do 3 a day.
Yeah.
And it might be 3 things you're grateful for. It might be three things that have gone well, 3 things that have made you smile.
Yeah.
Or whatever it might, like just do something. But the key is to do it every day and be consistent, because like you were saying, you know, people, if I've got a client and I haven't seen them for a couple of weeks or a week, and I'm like, how's your week been? And it's been rubbish. And I'm like, okay, so what's actually happened? And it'll be one day in that week that was rubbish.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so look back at your 3 a day then. What have you done? And what happens over time, and it only takes about 2 or 3 weeks, your brain, if it knows it has to come up with 3 good things at the end of the day, all of a sudden it's looking for them during the day. So you're rewiring your brain, neuroplasticity, as you mentioned, Ali. You're rewiring your brain to not just notice the bad stuff, you're rewiring it to notice the good stuff. And that then has a longer
I've
term
still got my
impact.
journal from 2017 when obviously I was really struggling, and I look back on it, and I reflect on it, and it makes me smile. So a lot going back to Crash Fan now, a lot of what if this happens, what if that happens, and I can't. But when I'm looking back, I thought, wow, have I wrote that really? Have I really? I do.
Yeah,
I'm in a good place now. But at that time, I couldn't see it, and it's only as the weeks and the months got, and I got into a good place. I was like, wow,
Yeah.
how powerful this was for me. And
Yeah.
I've gone, like I said, I've gone to a lot of different workshops, but it's been fantastic for me. Absolutely.
There's a really good way, if you're a visual person as well, get a big clear jar, like a cookie jar, and do what's called a happy jar. I have one. So at the beginning of the year, me and my daughter, whenever anything happy happens, we write it in there, fold up, nice, pretty coloured piece of paper, fold it up, put it in there, and then we see it build up during the. So even I don't even have to read them. I just have to look at the jar. It's like, oh my God, look how full it is. And then it's our New Year's Day activity. We just sit and read them for New Year's Day.
Excellent.
I love that.
Excellent. A happy jar.
That's really cool.
There are so many wonderful hints and tips which we will summarise in the next few minutes. I just want to finish off with a statement that, you look at media outlets, there is tons of difficult news, bad news out there, and there's not many happy stories. I guess just wanted to touch on is, whether you're in business and, let's keep it basic, national insurance rises, increased taxes for businesses, then you go home and you try and relax, and there's a lot of bad news out there around wars around the world. I'm keen to understand how much of that outside noise, if I may, kind of comes inside. Go on, sir. With your finger up.
Yeah. So, having been through counselling, one of the amazing things I learned was that so the Buddhists call it 2 responses to pain, the 2 arrows of suffering. The first arrow is the bit that you can't avoid. So you've read the newspaper, something really bad's happened. That's bad, and it's right to feel, a response to that. And you're not in control of that. If, when your mum passed away, it's right to grieve, and it's right to feel really sad about that. But the second arrow is the one that you can't control, and it's about your response to that. Well, how is that going to make me feel? Oh, you hear people saying, oh, I'm really scared because of what's happening in the world. Okay, so bad things are happening in the world. It's the first arrow, you can't avoid that. Whether you're scared about that, you can absolutely avoid. You can say, I'm going to distance myself from that. There are so many things in life that I don't need to be scared about. And I can, catch that arrow and stop it before it enters my body. So there's the bit you can control and the bit you can't control.
Cause and effect.
Yeah.
Look, thank you all for a fantastic discussion. Whenever we do a tab board, we always ask for best takeaway. I've picked up plenty of great tips along the way, but I'd just like you to share your best takeaway from today's session, Ryan.
I think that hearing different stories, I think it's just not one shoe fits all kind of thing. So that's for me. I think taking away that there's different coping mechanisms, there's different, we're talking about stress, and I think a lot of people do think stress and anxiety are just in one, and it's different things like that. So hearing different stories, I think there's a lot to take away from that.
Great stuff. Thank you, Al.
Cool. Yeah. I think the very fact that we're doing this exercise is worth celebrating itself. I remember 10 years ago listening to a national radio station that I won't name, but do tend to talk a lot about sport. And I remember on that show, they were talking about a professional sports person who had to leave the England setup because they weren't feeling right, and they just called this person out and threw them under a bus. How dare that person in their gilded lifestyle with all the money that they want and living their dreams. How dare they be unhappy? And you'll never hear that anymore.
No.
So the game has changed and the conversation has moved on. We probably wouldn't have been sat around here having this conversation 10 years ago, but we are now. So the conversation has become mainstream. So I think just the mere fact that we're doing this, and Tab have been good enough to invite us around the table, speaks for itself.
Let the conversation continue. Best takeaway?
For me, actually, is not dissimilar to what Ali said. It's about having this conversation with men, because when I first got into this industry, that was still really incredibly hard to do, and not many men would they'd approach me in silent. I remember, delivering a workshop at Drax Power Station, actually, and every workshop I deliver, it was predominantly men, and there's banter and there's everything going on, and it was like, almost like a bit like a tick box exercise. At the end of probably out of 10 sessions, at the end of 8 of them, I'd have a guy that would come and find me after when everyone else had gone, to have a private conversation and say, I didn't mean what I said, this is actually what I'm going through. And now what's really refreshing is hearing, like, hearing you talk about journaling, hearing you talk about kind of the things that you're doing with Wingmen. To me, that's an amazing step up from when I first started in this industry 10 years ago.
Long may the
Absolutely.
conversation and the connections continue. On behalf of me, Simon, thank you for coming along today. Really, really enjoyed the conversation with so many hints and tips, whether it be around journaling, whether it be around self-connection and values and your purpose, whether it be around a cookie jar, which we may well take away. What I would say is, genuinely, male, female, it doesn't matter how you want to describe yourself. If you are struggling, please do reach out to Andy Mann's Club, to Wingmen, to stress specialists, to anyone. It is vitally important that we continue to have the conversation. That's all for us today on episode 9. If you've enjoyed today, please do subscribe on Spotify or on the Alternative Board YouTube channel. You'll see some great episodes around there, around sales, around resilience, but I guarantee you, none of them will be as good as today. Ryan, Ali, Nikki, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
And
Cheers,
from
Liam.
me, continue being wonderful.
Thanks, Liam.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Liam Prendergast, co-owner of the Alternative Board in the Wakefield District. You can find us on LinkedIn or indeed at www.thealternativeboard.co.uk. We do have a number of events coming up over the next few months. Reach out to us, have a chat. Let's keep the conversation moving.
Hi, I'm Nikki, the stress specialist. You can find me on LinkedIn, also on Instagram, Facebook, and my website is www.thestresssspecialist.com. I've also got some events coming up, some networking events that are all around stress less, talk more, stress less, sing more, which might be of interest to some. So come and check us out on our website and on our social media.
Alistair Gladson, aka Ali G. I know. I work for Wingmen, so Wingmen, and you can find us all over LinkedIn and increasingly on Instagram as well, or on our website, which is wingmen.org.uk.
Hi, I'm Ryan. I'm facilitator at Andy's Man Club. There's 270 clubs up and down the country. If you want to attend every Monday, 7 p.m, come and give it a try.